Hello, hello. I'm just punching in a quick little intro to this week's video, which I'm super excited to share with you. It is an interview I filmed a couple months ago with my buddy Carter Michael, who is an LA-based actor, writer, director, producer, content creator, just a really fantastic person with tons and tons of insight into the industry. So without further ado, enjoy this interview. This is Carter.
Hey,
Hey, how are you?
good. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
How's life post Yale?
It's really special and wild. Being an actor is so weird, but that's, part of why I'm making this channel is to attempt to demystify some of it, make some things a little bit clearer for people who are gonna try and go into this very strange job path that we've picked, because it's really, 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 really weird.
And it's even stranger now than it used to be, because it used to be weird.
Yeah.
But now it's not even being an actor anymore. It's being all of the things.
Exactly. So why don't you tell me, speaking of being all the things, what would you consider your titles to be as a multi-hyphenate?
My titles, I would say actor, singer, writer, director, producer, and mover, as they say, musical theater.
Same, bro. So that's a lot of things.
Yeah.
What was your path to these different titles, or where did you start? Did you start out wanting to be all of these things, or how did you find yourself wearing so many hats?
I came out to be an actor.
Mm-hmm.
I was a musical theater guy, but I really loved TV film acting. I thought that movies were more transformative and impactful to me because of the additional element of realism to it. Like, if it's a good movie, it feels believable.
Right.
Even when it's something crazy like they're out in space or something like that. Hopefully the cinematography is good. They make it feel real. And so I decided to not go to New York, decided to go to LA. And I was going to be an actor. And I think pretty quickly, not even pretty quickly, I would say it took a good year, because everyone said, "Oh, it's so hard. Being an actor is hard." I'm like, yes, but I'm special.
But not for me.
It'll be hard for a little bit, but soon they will see how great I am, and they will give me all of the roles, or at least I'll be able to audition, right? And that's what
real.
The kicker is not even getting auditions for things, because if you can't get an audition, they can't even see how good you are or how bad you are.
In theater, they have required EPAs and open calls and things, so that is more accessible than film stuff, where the majority of legit stuff is coming through your reps. Maybe you can access student films by yourself, or smaller, little, tiny, non-union things, but for those listening who may not be aware.
For sure. And talking about the reps, you get good jobs from reps, but you can only get good reps with good job, which is the classic conundrum I'm sure lots of us have heard before, but it is very real.
Vicious cycle.
It's just a vicious cycle. And so my first reps that I got out here, because I'm ethnically ambiguous, which was very in 2016, now it's actually less ethnically ambiguous and more like what ethnicity or race, or
who actually are you?
What you actually are. Which is great, and a pretty significant shift, I think, from even, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Right.
I think lots of things happened once George Floyd died. There was just this huge focus and magnifying glass on race, and Hollywood being the outwardly progressive place that it tries to be, was like, okay, let's try and be a little more authentic. All this being said, back in 2016, they were like, "Oh, you're ethnically ambiguous, so let's see what we can do with you." Diddly squat. And that agent, I don't think, is even working anymore.
Oh, gosh.
And so in some ways, having reps is better than having no reps at all. But having bad reps is not great, especially if you don't sign any super long contracts. Like, just don't
Right, right.
don't do it, because like let's say you're just starting out and you sign a 1-year contract. That's not unreasonable.
Right. Especially because like there is a sort of seasonal flow. So like you want to give yourself, I think, a full calendar year to like really get a sense of how they're working for you. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, a year, I would say even 6 months, you can figure out if they're any good. Because they'll sweet talk you. They will try for about 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you don't get an audition or you don't book anything, then you'll just go to the bottom of the roster.
Right.
Something that agents don't tell you is that they have an A team and a B team, and the A team gets all the focus.
Right, right.
And the B team, they're like, oh yeah, these guys are also on the roster. Maybe we should submit them for something.
Yeah.
So yeah, which I didn't know. I thought they were looking at everyone and
Right,
said,
right.
oh, this would be great for Carter, who's the newest guy on the roster.
Right.
And it's like, no, they're giving it to Jacob,
Who's been there for years and who's booked a ton of things. Yeah. Right. So I guess something that's worth talking about that you're bringing up is the idea that when you are looking for reps, it's kind of a balancing act of like finding people who are excited about you and understand what you're doing, but who don't have too many people already on their roster who do the same thing. So like how can they understand your whole deal and be ready to work with you without having somebody who's, I mean, everyone is a special snowflake, but yeah. And something else that I was talking to a friend of mine, and I might have to have him on too, because he has like lots of thoughts about this, but I think especially for people of color, finding the right reps is really important. Finding people who will really fight to get you in the room, even if the project doesn't say, we need a Black person, people who have the vision and people who are cool enough to fight for you and honestly even just hit submit, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, people who are socially aware enough to, see that as an option. Like I remember my second reps, in the middle of the meeting, they said something about how your headshots look very put together, but I'm sure with the right outfit, you could be a little more street as
and
well.
You were
like, excuse me?
Right.
It's a weird place to be in because you're desperate. You're like, I really, really need someone to do something. And so you just sort of go along with it.
Right,
you're like, oh, these people are just a little racist, but what am I going to do? And so obviously those reps were not great. Ended up leaving them. And right now my current reps I'm pretty happy with. So sometimes it's just trial and error. And yeah, so since my reps were not doing a lot of good work for me, I had to submit to non-union, non-paying projects, and then was kind of booking, got some footage from my reel, that whole like thing that you hear about.
Not the way.
But it just wasn't happening fast enough for my taste. So what ended up happening was the first thing, I forgot about this. I was so bored and so tired, I actually wrote my own little short called Love is a Dangerous Thing, which an old Yale friend of ours, or of mine, Katrina Ungewitter, helped me produce, and she was the assistant director on that. And I directed and wrote this short film. And so it was the first thing I had ever done. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but it ended up turning out pretty good. And it was the first time I had ever directed, and the first time I had ever known. I didn't know what color correction was. They were like, oh yeah, we'll do color correction. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. What that is. And I couldn't believe how much it changed the feel of the short. And I had a great time, learned a lot, learned how important good sound is. Because it's really difficult to get good sound, and it can really make or break a project. And the importance of editing, just so many things you don't know about until you are making the project yourself.
Right.
So that was my first foray into writing and directing. So that was non-union. Then we go into this next thing where I kind of knew more what I was doing. And that was, I did not direct that, but wrote it to restart a little bit. With TV and film, you really want to get your SAG card whenever you feel comfortable. A lot of people say that you should wait because once you get your SAG card, you can't do non-union commercials and that kind of a thing. But I wasn't getting non-union commercials anyway, so I was asking myself, why am I waiting around? And so with TV, they really only want to book people who have their SAG card. And with their short films or whatever, it's much easier to get your SAG card because they'll just do the Taft-Hartley and then you'll be fine. But TV, they really want you to have your SAG card first. So you can either do that through the SAG vouchers, which I never did for background work, which seems difficult because there are so many people who want to do background work.
Which honestly, I don't really get. Background work is not that fun. Like, having done it once, it was not that fun.
Well, you have to have something to read. Bring headphones. People there are interesting for sure.
And I guess it's good to be on set. It
is good to be on set. Like, to be on a big, nice set and not feel like a complete ignoramus when you have
some words to say.
You have to go out and talk to people. If you want to succeed in the industry, you have to network, as they say, which should not be seen as a inherently negative word. It's how you go about doing it. If you're just going out there to see, okay, what party do I have to go to? Who's there? If you're asking the question, who's going to be there? That's the wrong attitude to take towards networking. You should be asking, does this event or activity excite me? Am I interested in this thing? And just go to it. It can be anything because people in the industry are interested in all sorts of things and they're in all sorts of places. It doesn't really matter what level of person you're connecting with. It matters how strong the connection you make is, because everybody, as you're going up the ladder, people who've been around the industry just know people. They just know people. And so if they like you and you're good at what you do, they will actually try to help you out. So once I was doing more improv classes and things like that, and just acting class and going out and yada, 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 I met this guy through improv. We decided to write this short and then we sort of produced it together. So that creating of my own opportunities, my own material, led to me getting my SAG card. So yeah.
Right. We talked about this the other day when we tried to record this, but there was once this SAG new media contract. This very specific kind of SAG contract that may or may not still exist, where if you are producing like a web series or other short form new media project, maybe also applies to podcasts. I'm actually not sure. But yeah, once upon a time was a way to essentially write your own project so that you could get your SAG card.
And I'm sure there are still ways to do that. All you have to do is be savvy and try really hard. You have to find someone who knows what they're doing in order to do all the paperwork correctly. Right. Because seriously, like, SAG is so busy, they don't have time to be going through every little thing. They're like, okay, Carter Michael, like, did do this thing with his friends? Like, did they know each other? Like, no, they're not going to do that. You're like, did you fill out the paperwork correctly? Is the producer right? Do you have SAG actors? You know, did you Taft-Hartley properly? There's so much fear that we have as actors or people who are new to the industry. The people who get ahead are actually the ones who are willing to take risks.
Be a little scrappy. Yeah.
Be scrappy. Like, seriously, think about all the, you know, stupid stuff you hear about people trying to pull in the industry. And those are just the people who get caught. You know, I was reading something about James Cameron when they did the first Terminator movie, that they were shooting without permits, which I completely believe they shot without permits, because permits are the worst. They're just the worst. Getting all that stuff. Getting insurance together, so annoying.
It's expensive.
Find yourself a good producer, a good line producer who knows what they're doing. Anyway, so apparently they were, you know, shooting, and James Cameron told Arnold to, like, break this car window for a shot. And he did. And they're like, okay, now we got to go. Like, what do you mean? Like, that wasn't our car.
Oh my God. That
You
is
know?
so stressful to me.
Oh, for sure. And who knows whether or not, that's a completely true story. But the other thing I think of is, you look at The Hateful Eight, which is one of Quentin Tarantino's newer movies, and some museum lends their very historical, very valuable guitar for the shoot.
This is very stressful to hear as well.
And so in the scene, Kurt Russell takes this guitar and smashes it, and so they've got the guitar and then they'll cut and get a prop guitar that they'll actually smash. Well, Kurt Russell didn't realize that he wasn't supposed to smash.
Oh my God.
And so he does it. He smashes this guitar, this very valuable antique, just completely destroys.
God.
And that's what's in the film.
Jesus Christ.
So
he must have had incredible insurance. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And so it's just, again, don't be worried about, am I doing the right thing? Is like someone going to
because people do the wrong thing all the time.
All the time. They do it all the time. And so got my SAG card through that.
And no casualties.
No. And also everything we did was by the book. So, I'm just saying, if you're wondering, with the new stuff, like, what are the rules? Just figure it out. Mm-hmm. If the rules or whatever is going to stop you from making what you need to make in order to move forward in your career, like some paperwork, you're not going to make it as an actor. I'm sorry. There's just too much other stuff that's going to try.
That's even more difficult. Yeah.
Exactly.
Even more trying. Totally. Something that I'm kind of curious about too, that I interviewed somebody else about the other day, is how do you, when you are working on a project where you are, again, wearing multiple hats on one project, how are you able to stay focused on the task at hand? Like when you're on set, are you also thinking about the script, or how, if at all, do you compartmentalize those roles?
Great question. So I think the primary thing is to do a lot of preparation before you go on set. Because once you're on set, you don't have enough time to be making any other decisions besides no. You just don't. And so what you do is you make sure the script is what you want before you start shooting.
Right.
So you get your however many drafts you do a read through if you have time. Most short films, you're not going to do a read through. Mm-hmm. You're just going to have your script and you're going to send it to the actors. Yeah. This is a little separate, but if you're an actor on a TV show and you have a co-star or a guest star or whatever, they're probably not going to do a read through. They might do a read through of the pilot for a TV show or for a film, they might do a read through. But if you're just stepping in, they're not going to do a read through. So you just have to know your lines. So if you're making your own thing, you've got your script, you've done your drafts, you've done your revisions, and you've got your shooting script. So this script is done, which is great. Then you've already gone through the shot list. You've already created your shot list with your director of photography, your DP. So that is done. You're not thinking about that. You've already delegated, you've already hired a costume designer. Costumes are done. You already have a production designer. That's done. Your AD has already made a schedule of the shot list and everything you're going to do. That's done. You're taking care of all of these things beforehand, because there are going to be too many problems that come up on set for you to have to worry about the fundamentals. And so you show up there, and then if you've prepared, also if you've done smaller scale stuff in the past, the more you're able to anticipate and the faster you'll operate in terms of your problem solving. So if you've seen a problem before because you did something on your little dinky short film that you did with your buddies, it's like, oh yeah, we know how to fix this. Whereas if it's the first time you're doing this and it's a bigger scale project, that's going to suck up a lot of time, and it's a domino effect, and then people get stressed and things get more and more difficult. So yeah, that's like side advice. When I shot my short over this past summer, that was an extremely smooth process. Once we were on set, we got out on time or early every day. I was very fortunate to have an amazing team. Just everyone was great on that. And it was also, I was the writer and the director. So there was no negotiating. I didn't have to compromise or negotiate over at least the written stuff. So when we were behind, I could just say, okay, we don't need this. We don't need that. We'll just cut this and we'll put this together. I'll put it together in the edit. And sometimes my AD or my DP would be like, I don't know. Like, wait, what's going on here? I'm like, don't worry about it.
Right. I got it. I got this.
I got it. Don't worry about it. And that it's really nice being the director because, you know, you can make executive decisions and just be like, okay, like this is how it's going to be. And it just helps to be decisive and trust that the post-production process is going to be fine. If they give you option A and option B, and option B is worse, and you end up picking option B for the shoot day, that is so much better than going over, A or B. Let's shoot both of them. Just do B, and everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I do feel like my default state is to think and think and think some more, and that doesn't really serve in this kind of work. Like there's being prepared, and then there's like going down the rabbit hole and not actually making any decisions. So yeah, I totally feel that. Like just decide and you will figure it out.
Correct. And it takes practice, right? This isn't the first time I had directed. This isn't the first time I'd been on set or written. I'd done it before.
Right.
And so I was more comfortable with my decision making. And the other thing is, if you've done the prep, and I've told people this before, if you've done the prep, when they give you option A and option B, they should be both pretty close.
Right.
You know, they should be pretty close already. And so you're picking between two good options anyway. So you don't really need to go like, oh shoot, we should have done A. No, B's still going to be really good.
We'll see what that ends up being on my thing that I'm very stressed out of. Excited, stressed. Okay, so another question that we haven't quite nailed yet is there any project that you're particularly proud of that you feel combines all of these things or some combination of them?
I would definitely say my latest short, Italian Nights, that we're still in post-production on. We've got the edit, and now we've got to do color correction and do a lot of sound because there's singing involved. It's a very inspired piece about this thief who ends up trying to become a lounge singer, essentially.
Amazing.
And so I wrote, directed, produced that, and then there's singing and dancing in that as well. And so it was just kind of all the things that I love to do wrapped into one project. And as I said before, the team that I had, it was such a fantastic group of people, very positive work environment. Basically, my line producer I met through singing karaoke. I wrote this script and I said, I'd love a line producer to just like tell me how much this is going to cost. She was willing to do that. And she got this great team together that she'd worked with. A lot of the crew had worked together in the past. So basically she got most of the crew. I got pretty much every actor. So that's complementary skills as well. And so we put this thing together, and I was very fortunate in that I had a bunch of disposable income because I had booked a commercial that paid me enough money to spend, about $20,000 on this short.
Amazing.
So it was, whatever opportunity you get to make something, you should just take it. Not everyone's going to have that much money to work with. You can raise it too. There's people who have raised thousands of dollars for short films, for sure. So, whatever avenue you want to take. But I just want to throw that out there as a disclaimer.
Right. It's not $0. Or people do make no budget project, but it's that much more difficult to rely totally on favors and totally on the kindness of strangers.
Correct. Every time that that someone has done something for me or been working on a project involved with and they've done it for free, I've always regretted it. I've always wished that person had been paid something, because they do not prioritize your project as highly as the other stuff that they have. And I would argue, nor should they.
Right. It's
they
fair.
gotta pay bills. And so I made it a point to try and pay everyone. That being said, if it's you and your friends and you trust them, with your life to deliver, go for it.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I'm excited. I can't wait to hear more about this project. I'm sure I'll see it on socials.
Yes.
And be ready to watch. Okay, one of these days I'll organize my list of questions, but here's another one. What
Great.
has been your greatest challenge so far with this multi-hyphenate multitasking lifestyle?
The greatest challenge, I would say money is the hardest thing. It's just so expensive to live out here, and you've got to work to pay for all the things that you're doing. Hopefully, you're going to acting class or whatever class you're in class to
Right.
hone your skills and also make connections to people. Hopefully, you're going out and experiencing the world because there's so much to do in LA and in New York. And you should have interests outside of creating art, whatever that is. Like I play kickball, I play poker, I play Magic the Gathering, I work out, I go dancing, all that stuff. So money is definitely a limiting factor. And so what you have to do is make enough money to pay your bills but also fund your projects or pay for yourself if you take time off of work to do a project. It's like, okay, I've got enough money saved up to do X, Y, and Z. Because the thing is, when you're starting out, when you're doing the writing, acting, producing, whatever, you're not going to be getting paid for it. And so that is extremely, I think that is the number one challenge for me.
Yeah.
Because if we had unlimited money, we could do all sorts of things.
Totally.
And we'd have the unlimited time, unlimited money, whatever. But you don't. And so I would say money is the number one thing. Time is probably the other thing.
Yep.
Because some would argue time is money.
Right. They're related for sure.
They're definitely related. And so that would be the, I guess, the concrete thing that I found most challenging. In terms of maybe artistic stuff that's challenging, there's a lot of delayed gratification that comes with making your own stuff because it does take a lot of time. It's amazing to think about how much time it takes to make a movie. Like any feature, if you make a movie every 5 years, that's a huge achievement. And so that's a lot of time between making the thing and people actually seeing it and telling you good job.
Right. Right. You're like toiling by yourself in your writing room or like on set you get a little something, but even then it's so stop and go. And
Correct.
And then you go and you're in post editing in the dark for hours and hours. That's so real.
And so that can be very challenging because when you do theater, you get that feedback instantly. Everyone goes, wow,
so fun.
You're so good. Good job. And you don't really get that when you're creating your own projects. And so that can be difficult. When you're assembling your crew or your cast or whatever your team is, you can get occasionally one or two people on set that are just terrible to work with. And so you really have to be careful who you're bringing on. And the higher level the project, the more sure you want to be, the fewer risks you want to take in terms of who you're bringing on. There are a lot of directors or producers who say we have a no assholes allowed policy, and it's really true. Because once they're on set, it's really hard to get them off because you probably need that person. Yeah. And so it's better to just not have it.
Right. Or, well, yeah. Right.
Avoid
entirely. Avoid that situation entirely. Yeah. Because replacing them is even more of a pain. Totally. Speaking of finances, I definitely want to ask about your survival job situation, maybe previous situation. One of my missions in trying to demystify this lifestyle is that everybody needs a survival job. The idea of quitting your day job, I just don't really think is realistic in the year of our Lord 2024, and especially for, I guess maybe we call this like developmental talent or early mid-career types. Like, get comfy with a day job because you never know when acting is going to stop happening, period.
Correct.
So with all that said, please tell us what your day job situation is or has been.
My day job situation, I used to tutor for a company. Now I tutor myself. That is most of where my income comes from. I still get residuals from a commercial I booked
Nice.
Like last year, yeah. And then I recently booked another commercial, which has been paying a little bit, not as much as the other one, but it's been paying a little bit.
Beautiful.
And then I also do singing telegrams. So because I sing,
that sounds so fun.
it is actually a lot of fun, and the pay for the amount of time it takes is decent. And so these are all things that I've been able to do because of the connections I've made. That's years of work, you know. And so find whatever job works for you. Mine was tutoring, and I really enjoy tutoring. Acting is more fun, to be honest, but tutoring is not a bad thing to do.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's pretty fun. Every day is different. You're connecting with people. It's rewarding to work with young people. Yeah.
And you've got a really flexible schedule, which helps with auditions, and if you have to move students around for whatever thing that comes up, you can. So yeah, I would say if you want to tutor or substitute teaching, which I haven't done, I honestly, getting up that early is just,
that's real.
Not my strong.
Not my ministry.
Not my ministry, no. But that is something that a lot of actors do, actually, because it's a gig. And you make your own schedule with that. And then usually you're done by like 3:00, and then you've got the rest of the day to do whatever you want. And so yeah, I would say the best thing to do as a creative is to, and it's something that I'm honestly still struggling with, is going to bed and getting up early, because
that's hard.
It's hard, and because we're creatives, we are doing things. We don't have time to go to bed.
Right.
I'm creating. I'm out with people. You know, I think it's better to treat acting, writing, whatever creative pursuit as a 9 to 5. In that,
actually, the person I interviewed the other day said a very similar thing, where she's like, I schedule out my days like 9 to 5, and sometimes those are survival job hours, and then other times I'm gonna work on my writing or whatever. Just as you said, it's so easy to be like, I'm creative, I cannot be bound by a schedule, but structure is actually really, really helpful when so much is outside of your control. So much is very chaotic. Whatever we can do within our control to build structure can be really stabilizing, supportive.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is I've gotten older. I'm not productive. I'm not as productive as I used to be. When I was younger, I could, just go write, work on something. Now I'm tired. I just want to go to bed.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, another reason why, just getting more sleep and getting up and going within that structure is important.
Yeah, I feel that. While we're on the topic, any other like self-care or like stress management stuff that you do?
I think the number one thing for me is, I play video games or whatever. Like, I play Magic the Gathering. Like, that's my fun thing. I also play poker, which is, if you can play online for less money, like, that's fine. But something where you have some instant gratification, I think, is important. What we do is a delayed gratification business, which can be really tough. That's one thing that's important. Obviously, try and moderate that, but that's important. And then the other thing that is so important, cannot emphasize enough, is a regular exercise routine.
This is something I need to work on.
Whatever it is, I feel so much better after I've exercised. And I'm just going to be honest here. You look in the mirror, you feel you feel better about yourself. And you can also, and this is also part of the looking in the mirror, and you can say to yourself, you did something difficult.
Yeah.
You went to the gym or whatever, or dance class or whatever it was. You did something hard and you made it through. And so,
I suppose that is also kind of a delayed gratification thing.
It really is, which is why I think you still need that little pop, like whatever makes you feel good, like go do it. If you like reading a book in a cafe, go do it.
You need to be, when this is your instrument, I don't know, I almost said product, but that makes me feel gross. But when this is the thing that you're offering, whatever you can do to make sure this is feeling as good as possible, absolutely. I totally buy that. I feel like the universe is telling me that I need to do my little exercise. I have been enjoying just going for walks now that the weather's getting nicer in New York. When it's like
Yeah.
the deep winter, I'm like, I couldn't possibly go outside. It's dark at 4 p.m. Like
That is another huge benefit of living in LA. The weather is amazing 95% of the time.
Something else that you haven't mentioned, but I am really curious about is, can you talk a little bit about your experience with content creation? Because that's something that can also be a source of income. Creatives have many skills that could make that a good fit for them in terms of another hustle to add to their pile of things. But what's your experience been with that?
So I went viral last year for doing a dance in like different locations and got a bunch of followers, and it was a whole thing.
It's like a lot of people.
Yeah, it was a lot of people. It was really cool. I got burnt out from doing it because eventually I was just trend chasing. I was just chasing views, which is
Right.
not fulfilling. And then the other thing is that I was going viral and getting attention for essentially doing someone else's thing. And, I put my own spin on it, and it was like my content, but
Right.
I'm not a dancer, I'm a performer, I'm a creative. It was difficult to maintain that and keep things fresh. And so I took a break from it for a while, and now I'm, coming back and trying to come up with more things. But you have to be very regimented if you're going to do that. And I would suggest not doing more than, like, if you pop off, if you go viral for something, you do have to have a period of probably a month where you're posting every other day. You just have to do it because you're going to build up followers that way. But once you hit that month mark, don't worry about the followers anymore. Just don't worry about it. You're going to get views, you're going to get follows. Do what you want to do. Like, if I had to go back again, like, that's probably how I would change it. I was just so driven, like, let's get the next 100,000 followers, like let's hit 500,000, whatever it is, which is,
those numbers are like huge to me.
they are big numbers, but I was always wanting more instead of just being okay with what I had, which, has its pros and cons.
Right. There's some level of hunger, ambition, fire in your belly that you need to pursue a creative life, period. Or else you'll get bored because there's no gratification, like not stick it out. Yeah.
And it was the first time I was like, oh, wow, people are seeing me. Like, I'm being recognized. Like, it was the first time that happened. So I was like, oh yes, please give me more of this.
Right.
I would say that if you want to make money, it's through YouTube. Instagram and TikTok do not pay a lot of money for reels or views anymore. It's just not worth it. YouTube is where the ad revenue is.
Well, hello.
Just FYI.
We'll see if we get to that point. I hope we do.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So make sure if you're interested in monetizing that you're on YouTube. That's the one you want to be on. Creators on TikTok and Instagram or whatever, they're not all rich. Like, just because they're getting millions and millions of views doesn't mean they're making diddly squat. So what you will make money from is people asking you to do ads for them on social. That will get money. It's not going to be a lot of money, but it's a decent amount of money for someone if you want some extra cash or to help ease the financial burden a little bit. Yeah.
And that is, I guess there's sort of, I also do see coming through on Actors Access a good amount of UGC casting, which is, I guess, sort of like the other side of the
generated content.
Yeah, so like the other side of the like influencer marketing coin. If you have built up an audience, people may approach you for influencer marketing, but then user generated content that may look organic, but somebody has almost certainly been paid to make it, is really popular these days. I think it's because audiences do seem to respond well to authenticity or the illusion of authenticity. And also it costs so much less than actually producing a real commercial. And it's not going to pay you residuals years down the line. I don't know. I just like to put a flag in the UGC thing because it is another source of income. But it's not the same as a union commercial by any means. Like, ultimately, a legit union job is the most valuable thing you'll get to work on.
For sure. But the thing is that union job is kind of like winning the lottery.
Right. Yeah, totally.
If you can do UGC or whatever on a regular basis, I think that is much more dependable And if you prefer that to being a host at a restaurant, do the thing that you want to do more.
Fair.
Is
Some
my
people
opinion.
really love working in restaurants. I've never done it. Maybe one of these days it'll come around, but for now,
Tough
I
because
don't mind working from home, looking at spreadsheet.
oh yeah, it's so much more relaxing, and working in a restaurant is a very stressful environment, and you are definitely at the beck and call of other people. When you're tutoring, you can be a little more your own boss. Which is nice.
I have like one half of a thought about survival jobs, which is you want something that is flexible and isn't going to take up too much time or energy that you need to be creative. And ideally that pays relatively well. But finding something that really combines all of those is kind of unicorn-y.
Yeah.
Although tutoring is pretty darn good.
It's pretty good.
And yeah, my current office job is also pretty solid on those things. Right now I'm having this debate whether I want to keep doing my office job or get back into tutoring more. The trade-off being tutoring will pay more per hour, but it is more demanding, and I think it requires a little more brain power day to day. Like you have to be on camera, whereas with office job, I am able to be like, I'm in my pajamas and I'm looking at spreadsheet, and that's my whole thing, and I still get paid. So yeah, so much to think about it for these things. What else did I want to ask about? Oh yeah, do you have any specific methods or tools that you use to stay organized as you spin all these plates?
I mean, I would be lost without my Google Calendar. I would say that's my number one thing. I use the Notes app on my computer or my Mac or my iPhone to keep track of things. I also every 6 months to a year or so like do a budget of my time.
Oh, that's smart.
I did a budget of my money years ago and was like, okay, it's about how much I need to make each month to not freak out.
Yeah.
But a time budget, I think, is also extremely important because you are able to allocate. There's only so much time in the day. So you're able to focus on what you want to do. And then I think sometimes you realize, oh, wow, I had more time than I thought. How much time am I spending just scrolling?
Watching YouTube videos, being on Twitter, watching my friends' Instagram stories.
Yeah. You can budget time for that, right?
Right.
But you have to stick to the time budget. So yeah, I try to people look at my calendar, they're like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much there." And I'm like, "Well, like one of the hours is laundry." I put that time out.
That's something that I think I'm going to try. Maybe next month I'll do some time blocking and see if I'm a better person because of it. Who knows?
I am better now.
Yes, I've grown as a person. So let's see. I think that you have answered a lot of my questions, but what inspires you as a creative?
What inspires me as a creative? I think seeing great art, whatever it is really the thing that inspires me. Dune Part 2, amazing. So many things operating at the highest level. In terms of cinematography, the set design, costumes, the sound is gorgeous. You feel like you're there, and it's not an uncomfortable place to be. It's sort of like a visual bath.
Wow, that's a strong image.
Yeah, it was really great. Christopher Walken is the only part of the film where you're kind of like, oh, Christopher Walken is in this.
Oh my gosh, I did not know Christopher Walken was in this movie.
Yeah, he is. I won't give too much away, but he is in the movie, and I think the dude has done a lot of great work in the past. I think now he's just so iconic that it's kind of hard to get away from who he is.
Right.
That's what happens when you're a legend, I guess. But Dune Part 2 was amazing. And so you see great art and like what it can be, what can be achieved, and then you learn lessons from it. Hopefully, if you can analyze it, you can say, oh, like I can see that this worked. Why did this work here and it didn't work in another movie? Here, or yada yada. So see as much, whatever your passion is, invest as much time as you can into it. If you love movies, you should be watching a lot of movies so that you can figure out what works and what doesn't. Study books or watch YouTube videos on the art of filmmaking, and that, or the art of writing a script or whatever it is.
Right.
And so there's like that inspires me. And then also I've written scripts based on, stories I've seen. Like the short I talked about was inspired by Barry with Bill Hader.
Right.
But if you go to different environments and do different activities, you can find different stories there.
Totally.
Like The Office, right? Everyone's worked in an office, or not worked in an office, but understands the office environment. Or Abbott Elementary. Everyone's been in a school before. So whatever environment you can immerse yourself in, go do it, and there might be a story there.
Totally. Yeah, we'll see if I end up writing anything about my day job. To wrap us up, what are your ultimate creative goals, and or do you have anything going on right now that you want to promote?
My ultimate goal would be to probably write and direct, like basically be a showrunner for my own TV show.
Amazing.
I think movies are amazing, but the miniseries medium has just become so great at the storytelling vehicle that's kind of what I would lean towards. We're not doing 24 1-hour episodes anymore.
Right.
We're not doing the 30-minute sitcom as much anymore. It's kind of like, hey, we got this great story. Let's tell it over 6, 8, 10 episodes. It'll be great. I think that's kind of where I would want to see myself. And also, the budgets that they will invest in that. Like if I could make a TV show like House of the Dragon, I'll say House of the Dragon now and not Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones ended so terribly.
Famously.
Or Queen's Gambit. I think Queen's Gambit was probably, I can't think of any other TV show that was quite as, maybe True Detective season 1, also incredible. And so that's kind of the story I want to, those are the stories I want to tell.
Awesome. You know what? I'm going to ask you one more thing. Do you have any specific advice or words of wisdom for somebody who is starting out in this career or on the precipice of branching out beyond their main discipline?
Go out and meet new people every week.
Okay.
And then once you find a group of people that you like, stick with those people.
Yeah, I think that's great advice.
Thank you.
Something I don't yet have, but I really am thrilled by, is like a long-standing creative partnership. I think could be really, really beautiful and exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel that it is. It's all about like the people and connection, and everyone is a potential future collaborator, which is amazing.
And if someone is not good at collaborating with you, do not do it. You are allowed to not have people in your life if they're not helpful.
That's so real. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today, and also the other day when our technology was not working. I thank you so much, and I'm super excited to see your short later this, what do you think, summer? Maybe?
I think this summer it'll be done, yeah.
Okay, beautiful. I cannot wait. Everybody follow Carter, see what he's up to, and yeah, have a great rest of your day.
You too, Zena. Bye.